What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, and welcome back to another edition of MVP Sports Live. I didn't know what I was going to say there. I almost said, like, MVP Games Live, but we haven't done one of those in a while. F's in the chat to MVP Games Live, but we are back for another sports day, and I know a lot of you might be thinking, Ricky, I'm excited. It's Football Friday, Feel Good Friday, let's go. But we're calling a little audible. I'm like Peyton Manning at the line, Omaha, pointing out to my wide receivers and shit. And that's because Dave told me last night, hey, yo, bro, I can't do the show on Friday. Soaps has got to, I'm calling in the lefty. Soaps has got to come in. So Soapy Muffins, my beautiful co-host for today, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing great. And that means our audible, though, is a little bit different because, Soapy, I'm not going to say you're football illiterate because that would be rude to you. But football ain't your main sport. So there's no reason to try to force you to talk about every football game, force you to talk about fantasy football when you're just not into it. So those are going to be separate videos. Go check out the YouTube. If you're in Twitch, check out the YouTube tomorrow. If you're on YouTube, it's probably up right now as you're watching this video. I am doing those separate from today's show. We got a full basketball tilt for you guys today. All NBA topics, all NBA draft, as we are a month away from the draft. It's going to be virtual on ESPN. I cannot wait. I've been waiting for this thing since June, and we're finally going to see where pieces go. Before we get into everything, though, Soapy, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Number one is, if you see me, by the way, if you see me look up to my ceiling, it's because I think one of my bulbs is out. And if it does go out, you know what you're going to see me do on the stream?
Smack the shit out of it.
Not smack the shit out of it. I have a tape measure here. And what I do is this. I put it all the way up. Oh, don't fall on me. And I just tap the light bulb just like that. I tap it, make sure it's on.
I can't wait.
And then I bring it back. So if it goes out, you're going to watch me do that. Just so you guys know. Just like I did.
Yeah, we saw him do that before, by the way. Just kind of behind the scenes. Me and Dave watched him do this. In absolute amazement, mind you. We had no idea what was going on. Like, me and Dave were talking about something we talked about on Games Live.
Yep.
And we just see Ricky just stretching the tape measure out.
Yep. Well, it's the light right here. And, like, I got the lights behind me now that kind of light everything up. But, you know, I can't have that go out. I need the light above me. So, yeah, that's what you're going to see if the tape measure comes out. But, number one, join the Discord. Link down below. I know a lot of you in chat right now are Discordies. So you guys are already there. But if you're watching us on YouTube or something and you're not in the Discord, join the link. It's down below in the description, or exclamation Discord into Twitch chat. Get you that link. It's a great community, great conversations going on pretty much every second of the day and night, 24/7, as we've got people in Australia, people all over the US, people always talking in that Discord. Number two, if you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids. That's how you go ahead and do that. Thank you to our Patreon sponsors, Pat Hill and Philly Sean. Can also sponsor us by throwing us a sub on Twitch. A special thanks at the beginning of the show to Chainsaw Chief, throwing us the sub, the Prime sub, Soapy. So thank you to Chainsaw for throwing us that sub before the show today. We're live on Twitch every Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVPvids, but we're also on YouTube at MVP Sports as well. And Soapy, the first thing we're talking about today has nothing to do with the NBA draft. It actually has something to do with the NBA season. We have NBA season news to start the show off with. And basically, here's the article from ESPN. The NBA Board of Governors is meeting Friday and is discussing possible changes to the plan for the 2020-21 season, including starting as quickly as possible, playing fewer games than 82, and not waiting for fans to be permitted to all league arenas, source told ESPN. There has been some discussion amongst owners about starting as soon as Christmas Day to take advantage of that historical prime NBA showcase, sources said. Numerous teams contacted by ESPN over the past several days weren't sure such a timeline was feasible. Others have been pushing for a start around Martin Luther King weekend in mid-January, sources said. Just last month, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said, the goal is for us next season is to play a standard season, 82-game season and playoffs in home arenas in front of fans. Soapy, what do you think is going to happen with the start of the season? Is it going to be a Christmas start? Is it going to be later than Christmas? Are we going to start with fans in the seats? What are you thinking for the start of the NBA?
I'm thinking that I'm thinking they're really going to gun for a Christmas start.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing is because I think you make more money on Christmas games, mostly because then it's kind of it's just, you kind of always have, like the really big, like marquee matchups happening on Christmas.
Yeah.
Especially because then you get opening day hype, you get Christmas hype. For instance, like some people may just throw on the game as background noise. Because I know my household always does, not so much with basketball games, but with football games.
Yeah.
But for instance, like there'll be basketball families out there, they're like, oh, dude, sure, let's put this team on. Some people are going to be like, damn it, dude, my team never gets to play on Christmas. And it's going to be like, maybe if your team gets better, you get to play on Christmas. But that's besides the point. I almost wonder as well, are we going to be getting the season from the bubble again? Like, that's kind of what my wonder is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because, can the bubble support all the NBA teams?
Well, yeah, here's the thing where I feel like if you're doing a bubble, they would almost need 2 bubble sites to where it's like, how would that fuck up scheduling? Because basically you're playing 2 bubbles. The thing that I found interesting, though, is this is on a separate note. I saw an article that I think, Sam put it in the Discord is where I saw it, that apparently the Toronto Raptors are looking to play their games at the University of Louisville just in case teams are playing in stadiums when the season starts because of the whole travel situation between Canada not letting in people from the U.S. into their country because, we're a horrible country and our leaders can't. I shouldn't say that. The people are great. Some of the people are great. We just have horrible leadership that doesn't know how to properly fight a pandemic. Or I'm sorry, a global pandemic, right, Soapy? It's a world issue.
Don't get me started.
We got a global pandemic in front of us. How many times that was said last night? But I almost think they're going to they should do the bubble. I think a bubble would work with every team because, let's be honest, there are more courts at the worldwide Disney site. So, you could just have fucking 2 courts going on their site. And basically that's what I would do. I would try to shoot for a bubble because I look at what's going on in the NFL. I look what's going on in the MLB. If you have travel and you have the stadiums being used, even if they're empty, the whole thing is you cannot trust the players. It is proven that we cannot trust players to make the right decision. How many times in the MLB and even the NFL we've seen guys, hey, I'm going to go out to dinner. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to not be thinking about anybody else. The whole mentality of we either all do it or we all die usually doesn't fit in there. So that's why I would shoot for a bubble. But yeah, with a start date, I would start on Christmas. I would basically say, hey, that lockout season we had? Just do that. Start on Christmas, end in July. Try to restart the schedule because I feel like the NBA, eventually we're going to get out of the pandemic, or I hope. I feel like eventually the NBA would have to restart, get back on its kind of little segue so that it's we're not competing and playing from basically October to October every fucking year.
Yeah, and that's something that I think is a very good question to bring up as well. Of do they use this opportunity to actually permanently switch up the schedule? Because obviously, for instance, what if they do just drop some of the games and just every season from this point on is a 72-game season? For instance, that may be a way of them trying to get rid of back-to-backs.
Money.
True.
Money.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I think they're not ever going to drop the 82 games.
Yeah.
But for instance, like, well, let's say hypothetically, they felt, oh, we could make more money or something like that. Like, let's say like money didn't get brought in. Like, if they could find a solution to getting rid of back-to-backs, because obviously, like, they've cut down a lot. Like, there's not as many as there used to be, but like they still happen, and it's something that I think needs to be addressed still. Because obviously, it's with every other sport. I think maybe sometimes it happens in baseball.
Yeah.
Like, you never see really any other sports league have, like, back-to-back games with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, obviously with baseball, they play, like, 100-plus games?
Yes, 162, I think.
Yeah, so obviously there's going to be some back-to-backs in there.
Yeah.
But
with baseball, though, it's such a sport to where it's like, I mean, playing back-to-back in baseball is not the same as playing back-to-back in basketball, because, like, basketball back-to-back is, all right, I played in Golden State today, now I got to go all the way to fucking Dallas tomorrow. Where, like, in baseball, it's, all right, we're coming to Pittsburgh, we're here for 3 or 4 days.
True. So, yeah, and I mean, I think it mostly is just going to depend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to just think. It's also, it's kind of a thing that just I genuinely wonder, like, if they do try to expand the bubble at Disney, the whole thing that I wonder is not so much like court space. I'm more worried of like, is there enough hotel space? Well, that's what I'm mostly worried about.
And that's the quick question the last thing I was gonna bring up is I'm trying to look at last year's standings because they would have a better road for this. So let's see. Usually a team plays. Let's see if my math. Fuck it. I'm just gonna bring out a calculator. So usually a team plays 44 conference games. Do they do it to where, all right, so we're going to have a 52 game schedule. I think that's the amount that we had when the lockout season happened. But basically, instead of non-conference games, it'll be, all right, we're going to have, because they talked about having a bubble in Chicago too. What if they did 2 bubbles? They did a Western Conference bubble, which doesn't have to be in the Western Conference, but it's like we have a bubble for the Western Conference teams, a bubble for the Eastern Conference teams. And basically it's like, okay, for this season, we're eliminating non-conference play. So basically all the 52 games for the East are going to be East on East. All the 52 games for the West will be West on West. You get all the regular season with both of them. You get all of the playoffs done in those bubbles. And then you just bring the 2 final teams together for a final bubble for your NBA Finals.
Yeah, and obviously that could be something that they consider.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the only reason I don't think they would do that is mostly because, God forbid, we'll never hear the end of, like, that'll just bring back out the weak East comment.
The East won't go for that. That's a King he said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna that'd be something else.
The Bucks might win every game, or close to every game.
I mean, no, if they have to run into the fucking Heat or the Celtics or any team that apparently knows how to be honest to get over it.
Those are the only 2 teams they'll lose against. So what? They'll have 6 losses.
I don't know about only teams.
I mean, close enough. I'm just fucking joshing out there, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the NBA does, and let's switch it up. Let's get into the main stuff for today. It's NBA draft time, Soapy. We're talking about draft topics, the biggest draft rumors going on right now, and you and I believe you were on for when we talked about this. It might have been a Dave and I topic. No, I think you and I talked about the Warriors. Should they trade the number 2 pick? We did this a while ago. And at the time, the reports were that the Warriors were really high on Anthony Edwards. Well, today, and I'm getting this from NBCSports.com, This is what it says. The 2020 NBA draft, which officially was scheduled for June 25th, is now less than a month away. The reality is that nobody has a clue what the Minnesota Timberwolves and Golden State Warriors will do with the number 1 and number 2 overall picks, respectively. But it's mock draft season, and the analysts have a job to do. Hell yeah, we do. Bleacher Report's Jonathan Wasserman published an updated version Wednesday, and he has the T-Wolves taking LaMelo Ball and the Warriors selecting James Wiseman. Odds are the Warriors stay put despite all the trade chatter, and we're hearing there is more support for Wiseman than Anthony Edwards in Golden State's front office, Wasserman wrote. Denny Abdia, who I'm inserting myself, this is Ricky here, worked out with the Warriors, I think, yesterday or today. Obi Toppin and Tyrese Halliburton figure to remain in play. But it's presumed they're more trade-down targets. For what it's worth, we also have seen stories claiming Golden State is likely will not draft a center with the number 2 overall pick. Soapy, the question I wanted to ask you is basically with this, do you believe the rumors? Do you believe that the Warriors now might be higher on James Wiseman? Do you believe that they're not going to draft a center? What are your thoughts with the Warriors and what they're going to do with that number 2 pick?
Honestly, if I was the Warriors, I would take Wiseman. And my whole thing is, I think of like the top 3 players coming into the year, of Edwards, Wiseman, and Ball, I think Wiseman's the safest. Yeah. Like, obviously, there's questions about Edwards and his basketball IQ and stuff like that. LaMelo, we have no fucking idea how he's going to look in the NBA. I was at the NFL.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, like, he struggled overseas. Like, he kind of got into a rhythm a little bit, but once again, didn't really show a whole lot to be excited for.
Yeah.
And for instance, with Wiseman, we haven't seen him since basically the beginning of the college season. I think it's one of those things of, I don't know if there's many players who really fit what they would need. Because, for instance, like, I think Wiseman's a player that I almost would think if they're going for more of a, like, oh, we want to bring in a young piece we can build around in the future, because then let's say, like, the dynasty ends. Like, let's say Curry, Clay, and Draymond, just those 3 just stop winning rings.
They never win a title again, basically, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'd probably say, like, 3 to 4 years down the lane is probably when that would start to happen. Of where, for instance, you kind of take Wiseman as an insurance policy of, like, okay, we have a guy we can guarantee is, like, a centerpiece for our, like, not so much for our rebuild, but for our retooling. Like, I think it's one of those things of, I think you can get Wiseman's full potential out of this team. Like, he's working with a staff that has gotten talent out of players before. Yeah. We saw, I mean, dude, they made Jordan Bell look like a good player. And the second Jordan Bell leaves that franchise, I don't even know where he's at anymore.
He's not in the league. Like, I know that.
Yeah, it's
cash considerations.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that I think take him as an insurance policy, unless if, like, I don't want to say a king's ransom, but like a really good deal for a star comes up. And even that, I don't think a star is going to be available, because I don't know how many people are willing to be moving stars around right now.
Well, the way I'm looking at it is, I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be a star to be traded. Like, Dave and I talked earlier this week about Bradley Beal and the possibility of Bradley Beal being traded, to where the deal would revolve around Wiggins in the 2 for Beal, and I think it's the 9th overall pick is where the Wizards are. And for me, I almost look at that and I go, okay, well, this is something to where if I'm the Wizards, why would I trade Bradley Beal at this point? With John Wall coming back, like, this could be a team that does make a run for the 8th seed. In that, I think also with Bradley Beal, we just like to talk about Bradley Beal trades because us as fans want to see him out of the Wizards and see what he can do not on this Wizards team, to where I feel like if you're going to get a trade for the number 2 pick, the best you're going to be able to get is maybe like a Bulls package where you're getting maybe that, like, you might be getting like Otto Porter, Thad Young in the 4th, or Otto Porter, Lowry Markkanen in the fourth, or maybe just like an Otto Porter in the fourth or a Lowry Markkanen in the fourth, for Wiggins in the second. Mainly, I would think from the Bulls, maybe an Otto, Lowry, basically Otto, Lowry, or Thad, whichever one the Bulls want to give up or the Warriors want to take, and then the number 4 pick for the number 2 and Wiggins is probably what you're looking at if you're going to get like a realistic trade for the number 2. Because like if I'm the Warriors, I agree with you spot on. Wiseman should be at the top of my board. And the reason why I say that is the things that like, it's the same reason why when the T-Wolves, I think we're going to get to the T-Wolves in a second, but like in a different thing. So I'm going to say it here. The T-Wolves to me are the stupidest fucking team in the top of this draft, because although he is not Zion Williamson, although he is not DeAndre Ayton, although he is not Luka Doncic, basically what I'm saying is, although he is not like the lock for a number 1 pick, how the hell do the T-Wolves look at James Wiseman and go, hell, we don't need a rim running like rim protector that we can use in transition offensively and then protect the rim. Like, I look at this team, I don't know how many times I've said it on MVP Sports Live, but I'm going to say it again. This is a team, Minnesota now, that 5 of their players, Cat, Beasley, Russell, and I think Hernan Gomez, I think there might have been 5, but 4, at least 4 of their players were in the top 10 for opponent points at the rim. So basically it was drive central on the T-Wolves. Their defense is abysmal. Eric is spot on. Like I said, I don't agree with the first part. I don't know if they need to move the number 1 pick, but they need to get some defense. That's why for me it's like Wiseman should be your pick. And if Wiseman's not your pick, trade the pick, but make sure you're in a spot. Like if I am not getting Wiseman, then I'm trading so that I'm in line for a Nneka Okongwu. Like, that's my little side thing on the T-Wolves. But like the Warriors, they should be hoping that Wiseman doesn't go, because I think Wiseman fits right in, could fit in on transition with this Warriors team, being a rim running big, and he can be a solid rim protector so that you don't have to play Draymond at the 5 anymore and can just rely on James Wiseman.
Yeah, and I fully agree. Like, obviously, personally for me, I had them taking Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
And that's mostly just, like, obviously, at that point, I'm just going fucking all Minnesota's just going to outscore you.
Yeah.
And my whole thought process is, like, I fully agree. Like, I'm also saying Edwards can go there because they can aim for a center later in the draft. Like, I don't know where their second-round draft pick's at, but, like, there's some solid... Or no, the Timberwolves.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, because wherever their second pick, like their second round pick ends,
well, they got,
if it's in a reasonable
don't
spot,
forget, they got the Nets first rounder. I think it's like the 19th overall pick too.
Yeah, and I mean, and my whole thing is, who do you take there? Do you take someone like Isaiah Stewart? Like, do you hope that someone doesn't see that type of potential in Stewart? Do you hope that like just a solid defensive player falls to you there? Like, my whole thought process just going into this is like, they do need some defense. Like, obviously, I may be way too fucking high on Josh Okogie. But, like, I think he could be one of those players that, like, maybe not like the insane...
He's starting too.
Yeah. Like, as much as, like, obviously, like I said, I may be way too high on him. I think he can be probably, like, your second or third best perimeter defender on your team.
Yeah.
And obviously, once again, a huge bias there. And for instance, like, I kind of agree with how some people have them taking a point guard in the second part. My whole thing is I just kind of feel like that's almost...
It's point guard central. I was just going to say, it's point guard central. Like, I'm just looking at the Tankathon, like the mock draft. From basically 20 to 24, it's point guard, point guard, point guard, point guard, point guard. Then one at 27 to where it's like... Yeah, it's Cole Anthony, Tyrell Terry, Kira Lewis Jr., Theo Maledon, Nico Mannion, Trey Jones. Like, there could be a run of point guards in the second half of the draft.
Yeah, and my whole thing is the only reason why I don't think, at least in my opinion, I wouldn't draft a point guard is, and I think I've said this to you before. I almost kind of view that as like a slight to D'Lo, in a way, and almost in the sense of like, or at least like this is how I would view it if I was a player. I would view it as like, okay, you trade for me. Like obviously, the second half of the season did not go anywhere what they wanted it to.
Yeah.
And it's just like, to me, I would view that as like, what, do you not have faith in me?
Yeah.
Like, do you want me to play the two? And the only thing is, and the only reason why I'm not a fan with them taking a point guard later on is we saw in Brooklyn, D'Lo has to have the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
D'Lo without the ball in his hands, because we saw the fact that, and this was the whole reason why, for instance, with the ball going one, I hate hearing it because Ball needs the ball in his hands.
Well,
and D'Lo needs the ball in his hands. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak over you with it.
You finish, and then I'm just gonna like we're kind of moving on. So I'll just you finish your thought, and then I'm gonna segue us into the T-Wolves since we're already getting to them.
Yeah, but for instance, with the T-Wolves, like the only reason I don't like, I would say like I hate the LaMelo Ball at one is because the fact we saw in Brooklyn, D'Lo cannot play with another ball dominant guard. Because that's one of the main problems was him and Spencer Dinwiddie could not jive on the court together.
Yeah.
Like, it could at times, but very short increments. That was the main thing that kind of held them back, of where I almost wonder, like, and obviously that's going into a different topic, of, like, do they kind of, like, do the Timberwolves know that? Are going into this, are they like, okay, we are going and we are getting whatever this, like, we're going to go and try to fill a position. And my whole thing of where I was saying, where's their second round pick is there's like, I think someone like Daniel. Yeah. I mean, dude, fuck, I've been hyping up Tillman forever now.
So the one thing I will say, and this is just going to wrap up the Warriors thing, is my final thought on the Warriors is if you're at 2, you're hoping Wiseman's there. Wiseman should be your pick. If Wiseman is not there, what I do is I trade the pick. I look to trade it to Chicago. I don't know, like, if Wiseman is not there, that means he's taken it number 1. That means the Bulls would be trading up for LaMelo Ball. I would trade it to Chicago. That way you're at 4 to where no matter what the Charlotte Hornets do, like the Hornets could take Wiseman, but even at that point, you can get a Denny at 4, or do you just say, fuck it, take Denny at 4? So I would say 3 options. You either hope Wiseman's there, you take him. He's not there, you take Denny, or you trade back to 4, and it's like, okay, if Wiseman's there, great. If not, we can go ahead and take Denny at 4 and get somebody like an Otto Porter, somebody like maybe a Lauri Markkanen or a Thad Young to help this team. And Eric is spot on. Thad Young's contract is movable. Same thing with Otto Porter. He's got 1 year left to where it's like I almost trade over taking Denny at 4 because you can bring in guys like Thad Young and Otto Porter that maybe help you more right now win, will continue winning, and they're not locked down for 3 years like Andrew Wiggins, and they might fit better with this Warriors team. But now let's go into, you were already talking about the T-Wolves. We'll look into them. The big story with them, Soapy, is they may be going Obi Toppin. Not at number 1. I'm just clarifying that for me. I don't know what the article says, but this is from Duncan with Wolves of the Fan-Sided Network. Oh, come on, please work with me, website. Please work with me. Why you gotta do this? Let me scroll. Please let me scroll. I fucking hate
I don't know.
it.
I hear in the let me scroll. I don't know why I just thought of the Becky. Let me smash.
Let me smash. But here's what the article says. The Minnesota Timberwolves are currently on the clock for the NBA draft, which begins on Wednesday, November 18th, blah, 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 blah. Monday, Jonathan Wiseman of Bleacher Report reported that the Minnesota Timberwolves are high on Obi Toppin. So basically everyone's going off of Bleacher Report. Hey, they're high on Obi Toppin. To me, there's no way they take him at number 1. They should not be looking at him for number 1. Maybe they look like, maybe they trade back. Like If the Knicks do what I predicted them to do, they trade up to 1. The T-Wolves are back at 8. Toppin's then in play, or could be in play at 8. The only other thing you got to look for, and this is from King James Gospel, is they have an article that Obi Toppin is basically in play for the Cavs at 5. So they're another team to where it's like, if you're going to move back in the T-Wolves and you're high on Obi Toppin, do you have to basically make it to where, okay, we either have to be 3 or 4, or can they move below Cleveland and still have a play to take Toppin? And I'll even ask you, should they be high on Toppin? Should Obi Toppin be a guy that the T-Wolves look for?
I mean, dude, fuck. If you're looking for the age-old, we're just gonna outscore you. Toppin is the choice.
Okay.
Because it's one of those things of, but at the same time,
mm-hmm.
you are the big, you're actually just a traffic cone on defense. You're not stopping anything. Like, not even like the big pylons that can actually hurt your car. You're like a little shitty traffic cone at like drivers at schools that everyone runs over their first time.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's one of those things. If you are high on Obi Toppin, one, you're probably high on something else.
Mm-hmm.
If you were considering taking him at 1, you really need to reevaluate everything on your board. You need to wipe your board clean, fire your front office, fire your scout. This thing, Obi is a wonderful talent.
Yeah.
He's probably the best scorer in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need scoring.
Yeah,
it's almost like you have like one of the best offensive. Yeah, it's almost like you have an offensive-oriented point guard. You have an offensive-oriented center who could be one of the best offensive players in the league if he stopped playing fucking Fortnite and tried. What a shocker. If Karl Anthony Towns actually tried, there'd be a good fucking argument to have him still in the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's literally, I think right now, you have a piece that can be your offensive center point.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in Towns. Then you have your secondary offensive player. I think right now you need to have somebody on this roster that can kind of, at times, take the ball out of D'Lo's hands and initiate offense.
Yeah.
The problem is, right now, like, the only reason I say don't do that at point guard is just because, once again, ball-dominant guards, all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, I could see them trading back for someone like Denny. Like, obviously, Denny isn't the best defender in the world. But even in that, it's, you still get someone that at least, you could fill out your roster with defenders in free agency if anyone wants to go to Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, who's the guy they should be trading back for?
Who?
Aneka Okongwu. Like,
true.
To me, if I'm the T-Wolves, there are 2 guys at the top of my board. And it's basically, number 1 is James. Like, that's the first thing. I've said it 2 fucking minutes ago. Fucking take James Wiseman. Like, at number 1, take Wiseman. Be happy. You're going to get a good... Like, the T-Wolves, to me, it's almost like... How would I describe this? So, basically, the T-Wolves are a losing franchise, right? And they want to get out and start winning. So imagine all the L's coming in. It's like you have a leaky roof, right? And rain's coming in, hitting you in the head. And someone goes, hey, I got this tool here. It'll help you fix that. And they go, nah, I don't want that. That's what they're doing here. Yeah. Hey, I need to fix this rim protection. Because if I fix this rim protection, teams won't walk all over my team. Because guess what? Cat is not a rim protector. D'Lo is not playing defense, like good enough defense on the outside to stop people from getting to the rim. That's why I would go. Like, James Wiseman has the rim protecting ability. He has the offense. Like, if you want to start running with this team, bingo, rim running ability in James Wiseman. I feel like we're so, like, not we, but like, I feel like teams are so afraid of James Wiseman because we only saw him in 3 games. Like, that's the only reason. I feel like if he would have played the whole season, we would have been looking at James Wiseman like, shit, he's the number 1 pick in this draft. Hell, if LaMelo played in college, we may even be thinking, shit, LaMelo is the number 1 player in this draft. I feel like because we didn't get, like, because Anthony Edwards is the top guy that we got to see all year, and we didn't even get to see a tournament, which I think kind of fucked everything as well. To me with the T-Wolves, I do not know why why Wiseman is just not the no-brain pick. But even in that sense, I would trade back, try to get some more picks, maybe get some more capital down the road. And Aneka, Denny would be nice. If Denny's there, take him. But Aneka Okongwu could work too. Yet again, a guy who can help you with rim protection. I feel like that's the big thing they need is rim protection. That's what they got to go with. Because like I said, they also have a later pick. So unless you think an Pokusevski can help you with that rim protection, I don't think so. I would take an Okongwu or a Wiseman in that department. But I don't know. And unless you see something later in that pick, I think those should be the two guys that you're trying to get. Either Wiseman at 1 or trading back and drafting an Aneka Okongwu.
Yeah, and my whole thing is, I think right now, with the higher up pick, I think you take someone that is a defender.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, for instance, I fully agree with either it being Wiseman or Okongwu.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the later pick, you can take a scorer. For instance, Josh Green will probably still be on the board. There's other scorers later in the draft where, for instance, a lot of us have Neesmith really high. Some people may not view him that high. You take Neesmith there, boom. You draft a scorer. And then in the second round, obviously, don't know who all is there. Not super in-depth draft guy.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if it's anything that's not Xavier Tillman in the second round, I ain't know him.
You could take Xavier Tillman. They have the third pick in the second round. So a Jaden McDaniels could be there, who's a 3. Robert Woodard,
personally for me,
the second. There are 3s there as well. Go ahead.
Yeah. My whole thing is just if I was that high in the second round, though, honestly, if Desmond Bane is still on the board, that's who I'm taking.
Okay.
And that's my whole thing of where I saw, I don't remember exactly whose mock draft it was, but they had the Lakers taking Daniel Oturu, which I didn't agree with. And the only reason I didn't agree with it is the Lakers don't need a big. You have 2 bigs on your roster already.
Mm-hmm.
Technically 3, because you have McGee, Dwight, and AD. But for instance, I thought they would take Desmond Bane. But for instance, if Desmond Bane is on the board, I think you take him in the second round. He kind of it sounds weird to say a college player is bringing in leadership. Fuck, dude. He's a player that I don't want to say he's a Malcolm Brogdon in this draft, but he's a player that he's falling because of his age. And it's dude, in college, he was really good. He can instantly step in and help your team in all facets of the game. For instance, he can help D'Lo on defense. He's not the greatest. Don't get me wrong. He's more of a jack of all trades type of player.
Mm-hmm.
He's not great at anything, but he's not terrible. I honestly almost kind of compare in this draft of how we view Tyrese Halliburton.
Okay.
Of how we view Halliburton as he's not great at anything, but he's not bad.
Could play the one. The thing that I like about Halliburton on the Bulls is he could play the 2. He could play the 2 with Kobe. He could play the 1 with Zach. He could play both positions wherever we fucking need him to play.
Yeah, and that's why I think the Timberwolves, with their later pick, should look to fill in that offense a little bit.
Yeah. Because
once again, you have 2 offensive focal points you can focus on in Cat and D'Lo.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's surrounding them with pieces that complement that. Where, for instance, an off-ball handler, obviously you probably won't get that with a later pick, but if you take Josh Green, you have someone that could potentially be a steal of the draft. If you take Desmond Bane later on, or Xavier Tillman, if you don't go defensive big in the first part.
Yeah.
For instance, it's I feel Xavier Tillman's going to be one of those people that, I don't want to say he's going to be like Mitchell Robinson, but I see a lot of what Mitch Rob brings, except he's not anywhere near as athletic as Mitch. It's just, I'll say I think he's one of the best defensive bigs in this draft.
Who am I thinking of? After fucking Michigan State. After fucking Draymond, who was the big that I was really high on, and then he went to the Hawks and didn't do anything? Adrian Payne. I hope that Xavier Tillman is not an Adrian Payne, where he gets drafted in the second round. Then it's I wish his career was better than it was.
Yeah, and obviously, once again, that's just a thing of, some people know pan out in the NBA.
Yeah, or
But
situations like the Atlanta Hawks at the time.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I view what the Timberwolves need to do.
Mm-hmm.
They need to figure out, like, okay, are we going defense early or are we taking defense later?
Yeah.
If they're going defensive later, the only reason I still wouldn't take Obi is just because where does Tillman fit into that lineup then? Unless if you think Obi can play small forward in the NBA, which, I mean, he probably can. Like, he's a good athlete.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't even want to know how bad he would get absolutely torched by someone like KD.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
that's the thing of where it's, I don't think he's, like, I think they need to focus on defense at the center position, move Cat to the 4. He can dominate most 4s. Like, if Cat actually gives a shit, like, I'm still, like, the biggest Cat, like, fan. And I'll even say it, like, there's a whole reason why I still have Cat, like, whenever, like, top 5 centers and everything get brought up, I still have Cat at number 3 solely because if Cat actually gave a shit for one game, people would actually see, holy shit, this is all this talent that Cat has.
That's the thing, like, even, so I read, like, years ago, Coach K came out with a book, or he wrote a book, not Coach K, Calipari, wrote a book, and I was gracious enough through MVP to get a press copy because I get emails to my personal email where like all these sports books so basically story time. I used to write for Fansided. Because of that, I got put on a list where basically any of these sports books like Phil Jackson's book, Calipari's book, I basically get the agent sends me like, hey, would you like a copy of this book? And what I was trying to do at the time, it didn't pan out because of his availability, is my goal was I was like, hey, I'd love to get a copy of the book. I'd love to get interview, because they were scheduling interviews for Calipari to talk about the book. And I was like, I'd love to interview Calipari about it. So I read it thinking I was going to get ready for an interview, and it just never panned out. But there's a chapter in there where he talks about Cat. And the thing that I've brought this up before on the Fast Break, Sean and Dave used to be annoyed with it. But I thought it was intriguing that basically Cat, one of his biggest like mental hurdles, you could say, is being motivated. Like, motivating Cat is what you have to do. And, basically what he had in his head to help motivate him was a little version of himself on his shoulder called Carlito, where basically that would be it. Like, basically he would talk to Carlito. And that would be the thing that like hyped up Cat and got Cat into the game. And like, I don't know, the great thing about the book, check it out if you haven't, is he kind of gives an insight to Cat that I didn't know about, mainly because he had coached Cat. So, like, it's right on what you were saying, where it's like, yep, Killa, that's what he called it, Carlito.
Okay, wait, question, though. Does he spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool?
I don't know. I don't know if it's like the WWE wrestler. I just know it's Carlito with a K. I should look for I'm going to find the book and I'll find the fucking segment of it. And I'll post it in the Discord. Cause it's it was so interesting, when I read it, but the one thing I did want to get to is from Twitch chat where Eric, had mentioned, cause I love how Twitch chat's having fucking tons of conversations today. It's popping off on a Feel Good Friday. But he says, going back to Obi Toppin a little bit, because that's kind of the main point of it, was he said Toppin has no ceiling. Toppin is one-dimensional. Right now, he's right. Toppin is purely a scoring 4, and his offensive game is what he's good at. Now, defensively, is he a complete liability? No. But there are things he needs to work on the defensive end. For example, I'm looking at the the Stepien here, and they sense his outcomes, like high outcome, medium outcome, low outcome. His high outcome, this is what they put. Spacing 4 who can provide elite vertical gravity and finish in paint in general in the half court at a high level. And provides good horizontal gravity off catch and shoot and pick and pop. Above average defender if interior defense improves footwork and technique on perimeter to reach average levels in space. And like that's like for me, I think Obi Toppin, he is a player that is going to be kind of dependent on where he gets drafted because he's going to need a coach that can unlock. Like I think he has, watching him in college, there's potential in him. It's just which coach is going to be able to unlock him. I don't think it's with the T-Wolves. I don't think it's like if he goes to the Cavs, I think that's a catastrophic situation for Obi Toppin. But I feel like Obi Toppin to me is kind of like that Rui Hachimura from last year, and kind of like why I liked Rui, because it's like you see the potential in him. It's just at the next level, is he going to be able to unlock it?
Exactly, and that's how I feel with Toppin. To where obviously, like at the beginning, it may have come off that like I was saying Toppin was a bad player, which is not what I meant.
No, he's got to improve. He's got work to do.
I think, yeah. And for instance, like if they did draft him at 1, I'll be brutally honest. If I was a Timberwolves fan, I'd demand the team got sold.
Yeah.
I would stop going to games. I wouldn't give a single fuck if even Toppin turned out good. Because I'd be like, that was the biggest gamble you could have taken. Obviously, once again, everyone's talked about this draft class isn't the best. It's not the best. It's not the best. Wiseman has potential to be one of the best centers in the NBA. Okongwu has a chance to be one of the best defensive big men in the league. Anthony Edwards, if he can get motivated, could probably be one of the best scorers in the NBA. LaMelo Ball, if he hits, could be one of the best point guards in the NBA. Like, that's one of the things where I think with Toppin, yes, he's an elite offensive player at the collegiate level. How many times have we seen elite offensive players falter in the NBA? Because, and obviously, this is a completely different example, but it kind of falls in the same thing with Jimmer Fredette. We thought Jimmer Fredette was going to be an absolute god.
Yeah.
That man was out of the league in like a year. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Obi. Ignore my dog. She's being annoying.
No. I laugh because we're kind of having dueling dogs here. Like, my dog's going crazy. Then it's like when mine shuts up, yours goes crazy.
Yep. But it's basically, I think right now, it's... Like, I don't think Obi falls in the lottery. I think he does stay top 10. But my whole thing is I don't think he goes top... Like, the only place I think he goes top 5, in my opinion, is the Cavs. And then they're going to regret taking him, and not because, the Cavs are not going to develop him. Who the fuck's going to pass him the ball?
I'll disagree. I feel like there's one other team in the top 5 he could go to, and that's the Bulls.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Hornets, and I was going to have to fight you.
The only reason I say maybe the Bulls is it depends on what they think Lauri Markkanen. Like, are we giving up on Lauri? Are we not giving? Like, if we're giving up on Lauri Markkanen, then Obi Toppin's in play. Otherwise, he's not in play at 4. But yeah, that's pretty much where I am. Like with the T-Wolves, I wouldn't take Toppin at 1. I would trade back at like, if you're going to trade back to 8 with the Knicks, take Toppin at 8 if he's there. That would be a good deal. At 8, though, then like Okoro and Vassell come into play. Like, I think Devin Vassell could be good for this team at the 3.
See, I think Okoro's off the board by that, though. As much as I am the biggest Okoro hater in the Discord,
I mean, it depends.
I think he gets taken by the Hawks.
You think so?
Yeah. I think either him or Vassell go to the Hawks, and then one of them falls. Speaking
of the Hawks, before we move on into Wet Boys, I've got one trade to throw your way, and I'll fucking take that off so people don't think we're talking about the T-Wolves anymore. But, oh man, this ain't gonna let me search. Fuck. I hate when Twitter goes, hey, you're not going to be able to search on my tablet. So I'm going to do it on my phone really quick. But there's a Twitter account that I follow called Bulls Scripted. And he had a trade that I was like, if that fucking happens, like, I honestly was not mad at it. Usually I'm mad at like random Bulls trades. Where is it? Fuck.
Well, because most of the time they always have you guys trading Zach LaVine, and you're a big Zach LaVine fan.
Yeah, but this one had fucking Cam Reddish that I was intrigued about. It would have us getting Cam Reddish in a deal. Why can't I find it? Here it is. So the Hawks would be getting the 4th overall pick and then a sign-in trade with Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn would be signing a 3-year contract worth $32.4 million. And we would get Cam Reddish in the 6th overall pick.
All right. I mean, that's not
like
the worst ever.
I look at that, like, but the first thing I say is, I go, first off, would the Hawks want to pay? I get why the Hawks would want Chris Dunn. Get a point guard that can play some defense because Trae Young can't, or get a guard that can play next to Trae Young to cover up for his defense. And you move up in the draft. But there's a part of me that's like, would the Hawks really want to pay Chris Dunn $32 million? Like,
yeah,
for me,
that's the part that's got me concerned. Is
that seems like a lot for fucking Chris Dunn.
Well, and especially because I don't think he would start with Trae Young. I think he'd come off the bench. Because the problem with the Hawks is the second Trae Young comes out of the game, they are the worst team in the NBA by far.
And I don't know how true this is. Chainsaw, you'll have to tell me where you got this source. What's your sources? Chainsaw and Chet says Chris and Trae don't like each other. Right, maybe that's because they play on different teams right now.
No. Remember, there was the whole thing of where it was. I think it was Dunn got suspended a game. They both got kicked out of a game because they were jawing at each other.
When the Bulls played the Hawks? Is that what we're talking about? Okay. Yeah, but
or they both got in trouble.
The other one that I saw that I was like, nope, don't want to do it, even though I love part of the deal, is the Bulls get Michael Porter Jr. and Jeremy Grant via sign and trade, where it would be a $45 million contract over 3 years. But we would have to give up Zach LaVine. There's a part of me that's like, nope, don't want any part of that because I love Zach so much, but I do also love Michael Porter Jr. Soapy, let's move on though. Before we continue with the draft discussions, let's go ahead and do a segment we love to do here on MVP Sports. This is Wet Boys, the dampest of dudes, soggiest of shooters, moistest of men, and sometimes the mistiest of misses. These are our players from the previous day. Usually how it goes is Dave is here, but today it'll be Soapy gives a Wet Boy. I give a Wet Boy. And then the patrons, silver and above tier at patreon.com/MVPvids, also give a Wet Boy as well. We do have 3 Wet Boys for you today. Soapy, since you're taking the role of Dave, you're going to go first. Who's your Wet Boy? October 23rd, 2020.
All right, I got to pull up his name again. Totally wasn't just me throwing out a random name.
I think it was you throwing out a random name.
What? No, trust me, it's Brandon Graham. What do you mean? That's not a random name, not at all.
Second defensive player to get a Wet Boy.
Yeah. You know, Brandon Graham played phenomenal. You know, and I'm really proud of him. Once again, like I said, totally was not just me picking a random player because I didn't want to just only have 2 Wet Boys.
Hey man, Brandon Graham, fucking great game.
I did want to
got the win.
Yeah, and I wanted to give a shout out to Blake Martinez. I would have given him a Wet Boy, but we don't give Wet Boys to big fat stinking losers.
I thought you wanted to give it to Jabril Peppers.
Well, there was that, but there was also Blake Martinez because he got 9 tackles.
That's right. Good point. But yeah.
I also can't bury my man Jabril like that. I can't.
So
I can't bring myself to it.
I'm going along with you. We give Wet Boys to winners here, Soapy. And also, It was Pat McAfee today on the Pat McAfee show said, this guy is back. He is back from the dead, and that is Carson Wentz. 3 touchdowns in the game, won the game for the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. Carson Wentz getting the win. I have to give him the wet boy for me because, hey, I was the one fighting Sean. When Sean was like, clipboard Wentz is what he's going to be in the NFL, I said, double not so fast, my friend. Carson Wentz will win a Super Bowl before any other quarterback in that draft, and he did. Did he start that Super Bowl? No.
I mean, he got him in position. You know, let's not play some slander. It ain't his fault. Big Dick Nick whipped out the big dick and carried him.
So speaking of that, we talked about Ryan Fitzpatrick on the show yesterday, and I put that segment up on YouTube. And a Bears fan was like, "Man, I'd love for him to play for the Bears." And someone commented on it or replied to that and said, "Nah, man, we got Big Dick Nick. We got Nick Foles, baby." But the patrons today, Soapy, they're going with a guy that they're going against you and I. They're giving their wet boy to a loser, and that's Danny Dimes. That's Daniel Jones. Danny Dimes. The only reason
this guy stinks.
The only reason I couldn't give him a wet boy myself is because of how much he ate shit on that run, where basically it was like he had no one in front of him and tripped over himself. Do you want to know something funny about that, by the way, that I learned from the Pat McAfee show? Do you want to know the betting odds that Daniel Jones would score a rushing touchdown in the game yesterday?
Wasn't it like plus 240 or something like that?
Plus 400.
Oof.
So Pat McAfee said he lost a lot of money, a lot of potential money on that bet, to where it was like there were a lot of people that might have bet that and were like, holy shit, this is going to pay off plus 400. And then guess what? It did not pay off. So Daniel Jones, I believe his first wet boy on the show as well. So both quarterbacks getting it. Also a defensive player as well, cashing in, getting the wet boy. But that brings us, we're going right back to the draft talk, Soapy, and we're going to the New York Knickerbockers, where Dave and I have talked about them before. Knicks fans, you know what I'm talking about, that the New York Knicks are going to make a trade. They're going to send the 8th overall pick. They are going to send a plethora of future draft picks over to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are going to take the number 1 pick in the draft, and they are going to go with LaMelo Ball. Like, that's going to happen. We don't have to talk about this, do we? However, we do. Because there's an article from NBC Sports that basically is curating Mark Berman from the New York Post, and this is what Berman says. It doesn't mean the Knicks will pick him, meaning Killian Hayes, if he falls to number 8 in the NBA draft. But Killian Hayes currently has a narrow edge as the team's second point guard on the board after LaMelo Ball, according to NBA sources. Hayes, the 19-year-old left-hander who played in Germany last season, is considered to have a more supreme skill set than the other lottery-projected point guards such as Tyrese Halliburton, Kira Lewis Jr., Cole Anthony, R.J. Hampton, Theo Maledon. And they put Tyrese Maxey down here, but dude, you lying. He ain't no point guard. He's a 2. So basically, Soapy, is Killian Hayes going to the Knicks? Is that what this means?
I mean, that's if he falls to him. You know, let's not act like the Pistons are right in front of him, and we're basically licking our chops to even get a point guard in this draft. Basically,
hey man, you could go with
this is my public service announcement.
Tankathon has you going Isaac Okoro.
Yeah, and Tankathon can go fuck themselves because we ain't doing that. See, okay, I'm saying it right now, and I'll fucking say it till the day I die.
Right.
We ain't taking Okoro. We ain't taking Okongwu.
Mm-hmm.
Why the fuck do we need defense? Who the fuck are they gonna guard? We're tanking, baby. We're going for Cunningham next year.
Going for Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, we need Cunningham. We need fucking somebody. The only reason why I always hate whenever they have Okoro or like Okongwu falling to us is this is the thing. I'm not saying they're bad players. Yeah. Obviously, I'm a big Okoro hater.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that, like, in this draft, we're looking for someone who can be, like, currently a focal point of an offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, we're looking for a player that is gonna be able to run an offense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, right now I'm only talking about the Pistons. I'll get to the Knicks in a second.
Yeah.
And basically, that's why I don't think Hayes is gonna fall to them because I
Mm-hmm.
think either Halliburton or Hayes
Mm-hmm.
is gonna be taken by us. I don't think Halliburton goes that high.
Yeah.
But on to the Knicks. I think this would be a good option for him. Obviously, once again, it's the Knicks kind of have a weird spot. Like I think they're in a weird spot with their guards because it's like obviously a lot of us are still high on Frank,
Mm-hmm.
but once again, I don't know if the organization is or not because he doesn't get minutes. Like obviously, I think Elfrid Payton's still under contract. I think.
He is.
Yeah. So obviously, if you want to hold down the fort one more year with Payton, he can do that. But once again, I don't hate Payton. Like I think Payton could be one of those backup point guards who is
Mm-hmm.
solid. And for instance, you can draft the guy to take his place in Hayes. I think either, like I said,
Yeah.
I think Hayes or Halliburton is falling this far. Like my whole thing is, I don't think that Halliburton or Hayes are going in the top 6. I mean, maybe one of them I think will go, but I don't think both go.
Yeah, and Kingy getting the New York Knicks fan, he says, "No, we not. Frank can kick rocks."
Oh man, dude, that's
So,
in the chat for Frank.
Right now, Dennis Smith, Frank, and Elfrid Payton all under contract. I feel like the Knicks, in my mind, the Knicks need to trade. Like, in order to get a point guard, the Knicks either have two options for me. They can either trade up anywhere, 1, 2, 4. Like, they can trade up and get a point guard, or they can stay at 8 and take an RJ Hampton, who apparently, in some rumors, they've been really high on RJ Hampton. I think they could take him at 8. But however, if I'm taking an RJ, I maybe trade down a little bit, maybe trade with a team we're talking about in the last segment of the show. Trade down, then take RJ, get some more draft picks for the future. Like they need those. Because in my mind, you have, so number 1 is interesting because is someone going to trade up for like a LaMelo Ball? We'll see. If LaMelo's there at 3, the Hornets should take him. If LaMelo is there, like even if LaMelo's not there at 4, word is that the Bulls, if they do not move up, that the Bulls are high on Tyrese Halliburton. So that's 2 point guards that could potentially be gone by 4. I hope the fucking Cavs don't take another point guard. If they do, then Jesus Christ, we're going for an all point guard lineup out there in Cleveland.
Hey man, dude, someone on that team has to pass the fucking ball. No one on that team has the A button on their controller.
But like for me, I think the 3 point guards at the top, Halliburton, Hayes, and LaMelo, are all going to be gone. And the reason why I say that is LaMelo ain't getting past 4. Like if he slides to the Bulls, he ain't getting past 4. Let's say the Bulls don't go with Halliburton or Hayes and they go somewhere else. Well, I think that the Hawks, they could be a team that takes Tyrese Halliburton because one of the best things I like about Halliburton is we've talked about it before on the show today. He could play the 1, he could play the 2. He could be a guy that you put in some rotational situations. You put him in to be the point guard with the second unit, but then in some situations on the floor, you put him into situations where he's next to Trae Young, and you could work it that way to where it's like you can pick and choose when he's a 1 and when he's a 2 in the rotation. And there's no way the Pistons don't take a point guard in my mind, whether it's Hayes, whether it's Halliburton. Either one of those two, if they are available at 7, they are going to be going to the Detroit Pistons, to D-Town, to where I'm at the fact where none of those guys are going to get to you. So you either have the decision of trading down and getting a Kira Lewis, getting a Cole Anthony, getting an RJ Hampton, like I said, who apparently the Knicks have interviewed and been high on as well. You either stay at 8 and take, I think, a Devin Vassell would work very well for them. I feel like Okoro or Vassell would be good picks if they're at 8 non-point guard because A Coro with Tom Thibodeau would be absolutely nasty. I know Kingy said Frank can kick rocks, but let's see what Frank is able to do with Coach Tom Thibodeau kind of unlocking more of his defensive potential. I know people are going to say, Ricky, defense ain't his problem, though. Offense is the problem. Or even Vassell, where he's got more of an offensive game, but maybe Thibodeau can make his defensive play even better to where either of those two guys would fit at 8. Or the other choice is to trade up in the draft and try to take one of these 3 guys. So, like, I do agree with you. Ball, Hayes, Halliburton aren't even going to be there at 8 for the Knicks to even think about.
Well, no, see, I think at least one of them falls to them.
Do you?
Because I don't think the Cavs take, like, I don't, like,
No.
if, let's say Ball somehow falls to the Bulls. Ball's on a 4.
Yeah.
I think then the Cavs would take Denny.
Yeah.
I think the Hawks, in my opinion, would probably take Isaac Okoro because they need someone on their fucking team to play defense. Like, I know they have DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish, but it's one of those things adds an extra level, like, next level defender to really cover for Trey's weakness.
Yeah.
To where then that gets to 7. The Pistons then have the choice of either Halliburton or Hayes, whoever they want to take. I personally would rather take Hayes just because I think he has a higher ceiling. And I think it's also, we're still in a position we can just shoot our shot, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that just means Halliburton falls to them. Like, I think, I don't think there's a lot of teams above that take a point guard.
Soapy. I got my remote here, right?
Yeah.
I'm hitting the rewind button on you.
All right.
Let's say LaMelo doesn't go 4 and he goes 3. How does that that's to me LaMelo falling to 4, it has such a low probability to where, although I would love him to go 4 to the Bulls, I don't think LaMelo falls past the Hornets if he's there. If the Hornets go with LaMelo, how does that change things? Because really, to me, it depends on what the Bulls and the Hawks do.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think the Bulls would just go with Denny.
Uh-huh.
I think then the Cavs in that situation, I think, would go Devin Vassell.
Are we then thinking Wiseman and Edwards go 1-2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like interchangeable 1-2, no matter where.
Okay. No trades.
It's basically whoever ends up on the Warriors is going to get their potential unlocked because you're playing with a fucking absolute god squad.
Yeah.
But, like, for instance, I think Devin Vassell then would go 5. Like, I know some people would probably be like, that's way too high for Vassell. The only thing is, I honestly think the Cavs are probably like, fuck it. We've taken too many guards. Yeah, I think, we'll see. I think Vassell or Okoro can go there.
You know who I like there also? Toppin, who we talked about.
True. See, I have Toppin dropping part of there.
Mm-hmm.
But, for instance, I think 5 and 6 back to back is going to be Okoro or Vassell.
Okay.
Whoever goes where. And I still think the 2 point guards drop. And it's just because I don't, like, right now, to me at least, I think the Hornets would try their best to see if Cam Reddish can play the 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously right now you have Cam Reddish.
You mean the Hawks?
Same position. Yeah, that's my bad. My bad. Whatever. They're both flying things. They both start with an H. It's just one's a lot bigger than the other one.
One's got feathers. One's got scales. Do Hornets have scales?
No, they have those stupid fucking wings, and there's the whole stupid joke about the laws of aviation.
To where their bodies are too heavy for their fucking wings.
Or at least for bumblebees. It's the law, by all laws of aviation, a bee should not be able to fly because its fat ass shouldn't be able to be held up by its wings.
But it does. It's a miracle of the universe. But yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing how one of those point guards gets to the Knicks. But, like, it's possible.
Yeah. And, like, once again, and, like, obviously I'm not saying, like, oh, my mock is 100% what's going to happen. Because, for instance, like, I think we could see the Cavs take Obi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fuck. Who knows? The Cavs may be like, all right, fuck it. We'll do what the 76ers did. Just keep drafting the same position till we hit.
Mm-hmm.
But technically, they already kind of hit with Colin Sexton.
So, I'll ask you this, though. If you're... Disregard what the rumors say. If you're the Knicks, who would you rather have, Killian Hayes or Tyrese Halliburton?
See, that one's tough, and that mostly just comes down to the fact of I think Halliburton's a much safer player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think personally for me, it just in my whole thing is I think Hayes will be a better player because I think Hayes has a much higher ceiling. But I also think there is the
Mm-hmm.
potential that Hayes doesn't pan out offensively in the NBA as much as we want him to. And
Yeah.
while I think Hayes is going to be like, if I was the Knicks, I'd go Halliburton, and
Mm-hmm.
it's because I think he pairs better with RJ.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
like my whole thing is just like RJ seems like one of those players, and obviously I'm not a Knicks fan. I don't
Mm-hmm.
watch the Knicks, so obviously take my opinion with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
RJ seems like one of those players he massively is going to benefit with the ball in his hands.
Good point.
And I think taking the ball out of his hands and giving it to someone like Hayes, like obviously, it's going to create off-ball movement for him
Mm-hmm.
because I think Tibbs is going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But I think, for instance, like right now, like getting him into a situation where he's going to be able to play with a player who's going to be able to accentuate his strengths,
Mm-hmm.
aka RJ Barrett's cutting.
Yeah.
Like Halliburton's going to draw enough attention from defenders where it's going to be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we can't leave him up. He's not Alfred Payton. They're not going to be like, all right, guys, back into the paint.
Well, the thing that I look at is I say Tyrese Halliburton too. And the main reason is Soapy. I'm gonna let people behind the curtain here. So this Monday my draft videos are coming out, right? It's actually I'll fucking release the news right now is for anyone watching this on YouTube or Twitch who is not a patron, next week is kind of going to be a preview week where there's going to be videos. So basically, it's the top 10 picks will be talked about and revealed by me. And those are all going to be for everyone. So it's kind of like hey, if you're a non-patron, there are fucking 2 more of these every day going up for patrons. So like next week, patrons are going to be able to see the first 20 picks of my draft, and then it's basically everyone else just sees the top 10, and then the next week patrons get the whole draft to them, where fucking the rest of everyone has to wait. And on my notes for Halliburton when it comes to the Knicks, here's what it says. This is the last bullet point I have. It says the Knicks need a point guard. ... Duh. Halliburton would be a better option compared to Hayes next to RJ Barrett. Halliburton is a good passer and has a better off-ball game, which could mesh better with RJ. Because the thing with Killian Hayes is he's a creator offensively, has a potential to be an elite passer. Yes, he's good in transition. Yes, he's got high basketball IQ. He's also an average to an above average defender. But you've got Halliburton, who makes good decisions, is already an elite passer, I would say. High basketball IQ when it comes to offense and defense, and doesn't need the ball in his hands. Doesn't need the ball in his hands, and like when it comes to defense, he's very smart in team defense, and can make those high level reads that would just get unlocked with Coach Thibodeau being there for the Knicks. So like for me, I would like Halliburton would be the guy I go to. I don't think Halliburton or Hayes are going to be there at 8 for the Knicks, but ultimately I think they trade up to number 1 to get LaMelo Ball. If you had to put a final kibosh on the Knicks of like predicting the future, what do you think happens to them with the 8th overall pick?
I would probably say if you start feeling uncomfortable that Halliburton's not going to be there, I would say maybe consider trying to move up with the Pistons, because obviously, like I said, personally with my draft,
With the Pistons or above the Pistons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like with the Pistons, just basically swap picks.
Okay.
And obviously, like, once again, that also makes me sad. I mean, once again, if it's my mock draft, we just get whoever the other point guard is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's one of those things of the reason why, and I know there's going to be people who are Killian Hayes fans out there,
Yeah.
and that are going to like shit on me and be like, oh, I can't believe you're saying that about like Halliburton. The whole thing is like, I stand by my point. I think Hayes will be a better player in the long run, but I think if RJ Barrett is your number 1 guy, if you believe he is going to be the face of your franchise and like the best player on your team, you need talent around him. Halliburton is a player I don't think you can pass up if you're the Knicks. Obviously, as much as I'd love the absolute fucking hype beast of having Obi Toppin on that team, you can pass on him. There will be another player like Obi Toppin in the next year's draft.
I think Obi might be. Obi, I don't know. Obi could be taken before them, but to be honest, he might even fall to like the Wizards, or lower. Like,
oh, don't worry. It's I was gonna say this in the Obi Toppin segment. You want me to get everyone pissed off at me?
Sure, go ahead. I love it.
My fucking and this could be the last thing I say. So I was thinking about comparisons for players, and I came to a conclusion for who Obi Toppin reminds me of.
Who?
Kyle Kuzma.
No,
he's Kyle Kuzma, dog.
No, he's not.
Scores in all three levels. Ain't play no defense.
Nope. I ain't having none of that shit. Fucking nope. Not having that slander on this pod. I don't want to pull a Dave, but it's almost like, hey Soapy, thanks for being on the show today. I'll finish this one by myself.
Nope, dog. I'm sticking with it. I love Obi, but I gotta hit him with it, dude.
And just to answer Kingy's question. Because I've mentioned this on a past show, but I'll mention it now because I've made the call twice.
I think what he's mean, by the way, I think he's talking about just moving up with the Pistons, like basically that's swapping picks.
Oh yeah, how much you asking for then? I thought he was talking about to move up to number 1.
See, that's the exact thing that I'm not exactly sure of, because the whole thing is, I think right now we would probably just ask for second round picks, to be honest. Like, I don't know if we try to move anyone else. I mean, dude, fuck. Like,
so wait.
I almost said Luke Kennard, and I'm like, I ain't moving Kennard.
Slow your roll. You're telling me if you're the Pistons, you don't do maybe something like what the Hawks and the Kings did? Because that was I think 2 picks in between, or 1 pick in between them. I would at least try to say, hey, we'll swap picks. You get the 7th, we get the 8th, and then basically at that point it's like, would the Knicks be okay giving up their own draft pick next year, or would it have to basically be Detroit would have to be okay with basically is it we'd have to be the Pistons would have to be okay taking this year's pick and then Dallas's pick next year?
I mean, my only thing is, though, I don't know if they give up 2 picks.
I mean,
like 2 first-round picks just to move up 1. Like, that's my only thing.
I'm telling you, when the Hawks and Kings did it in the Luka Trae Young deal.
Yeah, but one's fucking Vlade Divac and the other one's Tom Gores. So Tom Gores is alcoholic as fuck.
Oh, I know. But that's just the basis I'm making off is swap this year and a pick next year.
Technically, it's not even Gores.
Yeah.
No, I think it's right now. It's basically both teams are in it's very similar positions. Like, obviously, it sounds weird to say. I feel like the Knicks are in a better position than the Pistons. It's just we make the Knicks sound worse because they're a bigger team.
Yeah, I mean
I think it's one of those.
It's the bigger market, and we love to clown on the Knicks because they never win the draft lottery, and basically, I would have loved Zion with the Knicks. I was calling Kevin Durant and Kyrie to go to New York. I didn't think they were going to go to Brooklyn. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Knicks. And Soapy, let's close things up talking about the good old, we were talking New York. Now we're talking about that good old Boston Celtics, the Boston Celtics. And yet again, all these reports are fucking coming from the Bleacher Report mock draft of Jonathan Wasserman, where apparently, according to Wasserman, it's unclear who Boston would target, though it's possible the Celtics could look to consolidate their draft capital, which currently includes the 14th, the 26th, and the 30th overall selections. Soapy, before we talk about who they could target, are the Celtics finally moving up this year? Yes or no?
I mean, it depends. Is Danny Ainge in his grave yet?
Not that I believe. I have not heard that Danny Ainge has passed away.
Well, then they're not getting moved.
Okay.
I stand by it. I was just going to say no, and I'm like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I'll elaborate on it a little bit. I have a higher chance of going back to college and graduating at top of my class than Danny Ainge even thinking about trading.
I love how you had to throw in the top of your class.
Yeah. I mean, dude, hey, who knows? Maybe University of Michigan doesn't fuck me over this time and actually accepts me. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But it's one of those things. I think the Celtics they're just one of those teams that like they don't know when to stop getting young talent.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you notice, like, we were saying, all this shit last year, like, when they picked, like, Carson Edwards and everyone like that, it's like, you guys don't need more young talent. You have your young talent on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Trade for somebody. And they're like, Carson Edwards good. Like, that's what they did. And it's like, dude, I get it. You want more young talent because you want more long-term success in the fact that if you hit on one of these people, congratulations. It's going to be good. Turns out, the only one who was decent was Langford.
Yeah.
You could have turned those three picks into a player.
Grant Williams wasn't terrible.
I know, but let's be honest here, though. Langford was most likely the best of the three that got drafted.
Yeah.
Or at least one of, like, the 500 that have been drafted.
Yeah.
Like, and my whole thing is, like, I get the whole fear. And the whole thing, I kind of get where they're coming from. There is the fear of if you trade that pick and it becomes a player who's better than who you could have traded for. Like, then there's kind of the whole, like, oh, you look bad in the trade. The only thing is, who gives a shit? You'll be an NBA champion.
So,
wipe your tears with the fucking ring. Take the Larry O'Brien trophy and, like, rub it against your eyes. You'll probably get pink eye or something, but it's worth it. You're an NBA champion. Your name's in the history books. No one cares who fucking the Hornets drafted, or not the Hornets. No one cares who the Pelicans drafted afterwards. No one cares who the Timberwolves drafted. No one cares who the Bulls drafted. No one cares who anyone else drafted.
So, dumb question.
Potential dumb answer.
How many of the Celtics' first three picks would they need to trade to move up to number 6 with the Hawks? Would they need to give up 14, 26, and 30, or just 14 and 26 to move up from 14 all the way to 6?
See, my only thought process with that is how do teams view this draft? Like, obviously, like, us as fans and like analysts and stuff like that are saying, oh, this ain't a deep draft. But for instance, like, let's say teams are finding out, like, oh, there's a lot of hidden gems in this draft.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm thinking. So one of the guys that I think is, because I've got guys that I like in this draft. LaMelo Ball, I like Obi Toppin. Aneka Okongwu is another one that I like. I got to mention my boy Nico Mannion too. But Aneka Okongwu is a guy that I like. And looking at Tankathon, like, if Onyeka Okongwu is there at 6 where the Hawks are, that's a guy that I feel like the Celtics should, like, no matter who if they took 3 guys at 14, 26, and 30, none of those 3 guys, maybe the guy at 14 might be able to help them, but they could just trade all 3 of them, move up for a guy like Onyeka, who is really the one main position that they need some help with. They need a 5. They need somebody at the center position.
What, you don't think Daniel Tice can be the center of the future?
No, man. If anything, it's the former 24/7 I-95, 296, 375, 33 2/3 champion, Enes Kanter.
I mean, dude, hey, who knows? Maybe one day when Enes Kanter learns how to play some defense, he can stay on an NBA court.
I mean, hey, man. 24/7 champ, put some respect on it. But like,
like, I think it's just.
No. Go ahead.
Oh no. My whole thing is, like, I feel you can find other solid centers later in the draft as well, because obviously, like, some of the guys, Isaiah Stewart. I don't want to always bring up Xavier Tillman.
But do they have the potential that Onyeka does? That's the thing.
I mean, well, yeah, and that's the thing of where. Like, do you think someone like Onyeka is going to instantly make your team that much better?
Yes. I love
What if the Celtics don't think that?
I know, but I'm saying, like, me personally, that's what I'm looking at, where it's like, I think Onyeka could be a hidden gem to where I love his rim protecting. I love his ability to rebound, especially on the offensive end. And I think those are 2 things that the Celtics could need, because you got JT, you got Jaylen Brown, you've got Gordon Hayward, you've got Kemba Walker. You've got guys to where it's like you don't need the Zion Williamson of this draft. You just need someone that's going to help you. A Onyeka Okongwu could be a guy that helps them. Fuck, even a Devin Vassell. Maybe if they fucking this could be the team that's like, fuck it, we're going to trade up and take Isaac Okoro because we've got enough offense. We just need someone to play some defense.
Well, I mean, the only problem is then you just add another small forward to that lineup of the 800 small forwards already.
Is it the worst
you got to figure out something to do. Oh, I mean, then you're still stuck with Daniel Tice as your center. Unless you really want to fully commit the small ball and have Isaac Okoro be your center.
Yeah, good point. I mean,
don't get me wrong. I want them to trade up. I really do. But it's fucking Danny Ainge. Danny, like I said, Danny Ainge ain't trading those picks till he's dead. You're going to need someone to literally, Brad Stevens would have to sit there, pull a fucking gun on him, hold the gun to his head, and tell him, trade this goddamn pick or I'm gone.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of is maybe the 6 is too high. Maybe it's a move up to 10 or 11, or even move up to 12, a short move up to get a Sadiq Bey, to get a Patrick Williams because you think that Williams is going to be gone by 14. To me it's you're either adding a guy like Onyeka because you need a 5. Devin Vassell would be the second guy I look at mainly because this team defense wouldn't be bad and you can add defense and offense through him. And then number 2 would just either a Sadiq Bey for shooting or a Patrick Williams because, hey, we can play Tice at the 5 and have Patrick Williams be our 4. I think it's going to be interesting to see what exactly the Celtics want because they're a good team. They're a playoff team. But who knows? Maybe they make every fucking pick in the first round that they have.
Yeah, and then knowing the Celtics locked out, they'll miss on every single one of them. And then we'll just be like, man, you could have traded every one of those picks to get a good player.
Yeah. In the end, you say they don't trade up. They make all 3 picks.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I would not be surprised if we see Isaiah Stewart get drafted by them.
Okay.
I mean, and maybe, who knows, because you said they have the 30th pick?
Yes. They got the 26th, the 30th, and the 14th.
I mean, dude, hell, who knows? Maybe if they don't take Isaiah Stewart, they take Daniel Oturu at 30. Who knows?
Maybe. That's going to do it, though, for us here on MVP Sports Live. Thank you guys for sticking around with us. This is probably one of the longer episodes that we've had. Make sure to, again, join the Discord. Link down below or !Discord into Twitch chat if you have not already. Patreon.com/MVP vids if you want to support us. Silver and above get to interact with the show in a way more than just Twitch chat. Gold and above get content a week early. So when that draft content comes out next week, you can get more of it than everyone else for the sample week for the Patreon content. You can also support us. Thank you to Chainsaw for doing this also by throwing us a sub on Twitch, where we're live every Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVP vids. You can also catch us, though, on YouTube at MVP Sports. I want to thank you guys for chilling with us on a beautiful Friday. I hope you enjoyed the show. We will be back next week for more sports coverage. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.